Cats are ready. If you're ready, I'm ready. Oh, all right. Bum, 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 bum. La, da, 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 da. Bum, bum, bum. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the highlight of human civilization. It's called Coffee with Scott Adams, and you've never had a better time. If I sound a little different today, it's because I was up all night, so I haven't slept yet. But we'll try to get through this. I'll try not to fall asleep. But if you'd like to take your experience up to levels that nobody can even understand with their tiny, shiny human brains, all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tank or chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's called the simultaneous sip, and it happens now. Go. I've got kind of a FM radio vibe going on now. Weird voice thing. Hey, everybody, it's about 7 a.m. California time. All right, so after the show today, Owen Gregorian will be having his Spaces event on X. So just look for Owen Gregorian when we're done for the after party Spaces. Well, I don't know if this was real or not real, but there was a video of a Chinese drone show in which they had, it looked like thousands of drones in the air at the same time. But somebody brought a drone jammer. So somebody started jamming the drones, and there were thousands of them, and they started falling from the sky. Somebody said it might have been a demonstration of drone defense, in which case they should have been falling out of the sky, but it didn't look like it to me. It looked like a prank. I saw that in a post by Massimo on X. So check it out. See what you think. Look on X and just look for the drone jamming video from China. And let me know, do you think that looks real? It's so hard to tell. I think I'm reaching the point where 1/3 of all the stories I talk about will turn out to be, AI. Well, let's see. If I could have guessed this science. So they wanted to see if psilocybin could help some healthcare workers reduce their depression and burnout. How do you think that went? About once a week, there's a story about psilocybin helping somebody's mental health, and 100% of the time, it works. Every single time. So do you think it worked with healthcare workers and their depression and burnout? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Just in case you wondered. They could have skipped that. Just ask Scott. Eric Dolan of SciPost was writing about that. It makes me wonder, is there anything this psilocybin can't do? It seems like it can do it all. According to SciPost, also, Karina Petrova is writing that a little study was done, and they found that just a few brief chats with an AI, if the AI is biased, can alter your political opinion. Now, do you believe that? Do you believe that AI can change your political opinion just by chatting with you for a little while? Well, next time, just ask me. Yes, it can. Do you know the what is the concept which kind of guarantees that chatting with an AI will be persuasive? What is it? What is the persuasion concept that just guarantees it? The answer is the documentary effect. So I always talk about the documentary effect. The documentary effect is when you're listening to one side of an argument, for an extended period of time. Doesn't matter what the argument is. You will be convinced, or at least, people will be more likely to be convinced if they listen to one side of an argument without hearing the other side. That's all it is. So it doesn't matter if it comes to you in a documentary or you only look at the stuff on the bubble and social media, or you talk to one biased AI that it was intended to be biased in this example. Yeah, it's a documentary effect. Of course it works. Of course it does. All you need is one point of view with no counterpoint, and then add time. That's it. Time plus one point of view. Persuasion. I'm going to give you a Trump persuasion lesson in a little bit. You're going to like it regarding Gaza. Well, the one of the co-founders of Roomba, the little robot that vacuums your house, says that Elon Musk is in for a terrible surprise with his humanoid robots. So Futurism is writing about this, Victor Tangerman. And the Roomba guy says that you can't teach robots how to do things, with their hands, basically. And the reason is that the hands don't have a feedback mechanism. I think that's part of it. But he doesn't believe that you can teach a robot to do stuff by showing it how to do stuff. So, as in, you would never be able to teach it to do the laundry, or maybe even, I don't know, maybe empty the dishwasher. But teaching it to do the laundry, probably never, according to one robot maker. How about never? No, you'll never get that, because I think his argument is that if you don't have the tactile, the feel, that you can't learn with your hands just by watching. I don't know about that. I would not bet against Elon Musk, who very clearly believes that this will work, and he'll be rolling out his robots sometime this year. I don't know. I'm going to stay skeptical until I'm proven wrong. And my skepticism goes like this. If it were possible that in 1 year we would see robots learning by watching, watching somebody iron a shirt and then the robot can do it, you would already see that. If that were going to be on the open market in less than a year, you'd see the demonstrations today. But we don't. So I have to conclude that they don't know how to do that. Will they be able to do it in a year? I don't know. It feels like maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. Also, in futurism, a lot of people are discovering that their electric bills are going up, especially if they live near a data center. So if you live near a data center, you know that the data centers are pulling more electricity than ever for AI stuff. And that will make your supply and demand equation cost you more money. So apparently, if you live anywhere near a data center, you can get reamed, because data centers are going to be really hit for electricity. Now, here's my question. Doesn't that mean that you're subsidizing AI? It does, right? So if you live near a data center, then that data center becomes an AI, driving data center. Suddenly, your electric bill goes up. I don't know. I'll pick a number, $400 per month. And what do you get out of it? Nothing. Nothing. You're still getting the same amount of electricity. It just costs you $400 a month more. So you tell me, why should I not get equity in the AI company? I should have equity because I'm literally directly investing in the AI, right? So I need some reparations or something. Reparations, maybe. But that is genuinely a big problem. We don't assume, or I never have, that my contribution to the electrical cost would be anything that I would even think about because it just seems like it's all in the noise. But once it doubles your electrical cost, you are a major investor in AI. No way around it. You're a major investor. You just didn't ask for it. So yeah, you should get some equity. Apparently, Amazon's going to launch or relaunch, whatever it is, all of the James Bond movies, so you can get them all on Amazon. But fans noticed that the guns that James Bond often holds on his covers has been deleted from the art. So it's just James Bond standing like this with a handful of nothing, where it used to be like that's where his gun would be. So can't show that gun. Now, here's my question. If they make James Bond woke, won't that be the opposite of James Bond? And wasn't his lack of wokeness exactly the thing we liked about him? Wasn't that the whole point? There are still some of the really early ones, like from the '60s, where he slaps his girlfriend in the face. You would never see that today. Something tells me they're going to edit that out too. Yeah, and all of his wild womanizing. Maybe they'll get rid of that too. But here's the good news: James Bond, so far, is still a white man. Still a white man. Yep. I'm pretty sure they're going to use their AI to replace him with a black woman any day now. But at the moment, still a white man. Well, Bad Bunny, the artist Bad Bunny, as you know, has been selected to do the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and he's Puerto Rican, and which means he's American, and he sings mostly in Spanish. So a lot of people were up in arms. Rawr. We don't want no Spanish speaking Super Bowl. Give us some American Super Bowl. Um, but I saw Jay-Z talking about it because his production group's in charge of the Super Bowl halftime show. And he was quite defiant. But one thing I didn't know that Bad Bunny is one of the top streaming artists in the world. Did you know that? I didn't know he was like in the top 3, I think. He's one of the top streaming artists in the world. So, given that, and given that the Super Bowl is, more of a global event than it used to be, um, it makes sense to me. It makes sense. I mean, he's in the top 3. He's sort of in a class not too far from Taylor Swift. So I don't know. Would it make a difference if you had a rapper and you couldn't understand a single word the rapper said? Is that going to be that much different than having somebody just sing it in Spanish? It's not that much different. So I tried to get up in arms about this because people seemed to be enjoying how mad they were, but I couldn't be bothered. This one doesn't bother me at all. Why not have a Puerto Rican, top star in the world? I'm actually kind of curious because I'm not familiar with his work, so I'm probably more likely to watch it than not because I want to see what all the noise is about. So we'll see. Um, so you know how Trump brought the troops into Washington D.C. and brought the crime down immediately? Did you believe that? Did you believe that there would be a somewhat permanent reduction in crime because the feds were there for a week or something? Did that ever make sense to you? That the criminals would just stop doing crime? Mm, or would they wait a few weeks until things calm down and then just go back to what they were doing? Well, Reuters is getting a little skeptical about the long term impact in DC. Apparently, the murders did go down, but there's no reason to believe that they'll stay down. And other crimes didn't really change that much. So maybe it feels a lot safer in Washington, D.C., but I'll bet you in 6 months it will look like nothing happened. It'll be right back to where it was. That's my guess. Still worth doing, even if it's only an experiment, still worth doing. Still successful, but I don't think it'll be as big a change as people want. Speaking of sending in the troops, a federal judge has stopped Trump from using troops, the National Guard troops in Portland. So that's being blocked at the moment. I think it was a Trump-appointed judge that blocked that too. And the judge said, "This is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law." Meanwhile, Trump is trying to get Chicago to accept 300 members of the National Guard to help with their crime situation, but J.B. Pritzker and I think the mayor of Chicago are not in favor of that. So Trump's option is to federalize them. So he can just say, well, if you're not going to put them there, I will federalize them and put them there myself. So that might happen. I don't know if there'll be another judge that stops it, but it seems likely. Have you ever thought what would be the best form of government? Like if you could really have just the perfect form of government. I'll tell you what it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a panel of people. It wouldn't be a pure democracy. That would be a mess. It wouldn't be Marxism. It wouldn't be, an evil dictator. By far the best form of government, if you could get it. Now, the problem is there's no way to guarantee that that's what you're getting. But if you could get it, the best form of government would be a authoritarian strongman who had your best interests in heart, which turns out to be Trump. Is he an authoritarian? Yes. Is he a strongman? I'd say yes. Yes, he is. Is he benevolent in the sense that although he's tough, everything he does clearly is for the benefit of the public? Yes. Does he put himself at personal risk for the benefit of the public? Yes, very much so. He's had 2 assassination attempts. That's as much risk as you could put anything at. So while I understand all the criticisms, and I understand why people would be wary that it might, turn into something else, I get that. But we are experiencing the golden age. I hate to tell you, but you could not design a better government than a strong leader who is stronger than an ordinary leader, stronger than a president, and is taking every opportunity, every possibility, every opening, pushing every door, opening every window, and trying to make stuff happen, but doing it transparently right in front of us so we could watch, and being a second-term president. So he's got the experience. He knows what he's doing now. He's got the right staff. This is sort of ideal. I will go so far as to say that we might never have a government again that's as good as the one we're experiencing right now. Now, obviously, it's not magic, so it can't do everything it wants to do right away. But we could not do better than a strongman Trump who likes operating in public and likes to be liked, which is important. He likes to be liked. So that eliminates all the things that might be good for him, but we wouldn't like it. He just doesn't do those things because he likes to be liked. It's the perfect situation. He's an authoritarian strongman, kind of a bastard type, but for us, he's our bastard, right? He's being a bastard for us, and he's doing it well. I don't think you could do better, honestly. And maybe we'll never do better. This might be the best presidential situation we'll ever experience, or anybody will ever experience. It's such a unique situation that somebody wants to be liked, but also has that strength and also that experience at this point. So we might never see it again. Speaking of strong, Trump ordered yet another drug boat coming out of Venezuela to be blown up, and it was. So at some point, the drug boats are they're gonna either run out of drug boats or run out of people who are willing to get on a drug boat because it's just going to be a suicide sale. Anyway, let's talk about Gaza. That's the big news. So, as you know, the Gazans or the Hamas has acted like they're going to say yes to the peace deal, but they said yes to a different peace deal, not the one that was offered. So they're still trying to weasel their way into being relevant, maybe keeping their weapons a little bit, maybe being involved in the government going forward. And that's a hard no from Israel. So I don't think we're actually close to a deal, but it still might get done, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit. So here's what Trump allegedly said to Netanyahu, according to Joel Pollack, writing for Breitbart. So Trump said that he said, "Bibi, this is your chance for victory." And he was fine with it, Trump said. He's got to be fine with it. He has no choice. With me, he's got to be fine. So Trump is basically telling the world and telling Netanyahu, I'm going to tell you what to do, and then you're going to do it. Now, what other president could even say those words? None. He's the only president who could say out loud, I told him he's got to do this, and now he's got to do it. No one else. You know that, right? There's no one else who could even say those words and be taken seriously. But Trump can. He can. And I think this is in response to all the people who think Israel is the tail wagging the dog and that the U.S. is sort of following Netanyahu's lead. And this is Trump saying, no, let me explain how this works. He's got to do what I tell him to do, period. That's it. I'm going to tell him what to do and he'll do it. So I like this. I like this. This is Trump again, being the strongman authoritarian that he is. And he wants you to know that this smallish country of Israel is not pushing him around, and that he is, in fact, pushing Israel. Now, if he gets this done, then I would say he has made his case that he's the one pushing Israel. If he doesn't get it done, and Israel decides that they'd rather keep fighting, and then they do, well, then it's going to start looking a little bit like maybe Israel is calling the shots. So this is really important in terms of how we think of the relationship between Israel and the U.S. If Netanyahu does, in fact, make a deal in a way that all of us see wasn't his first choice, maybe he didn't get everything he wanted, that would be really good for Trump because it would show that he forced it to happen. It would show that he had the control. So, but if it doesn't happen and it goes the other way, it's really going to prove that Netanyahu actually does run the country. So, I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. That's a little bit of hyperbole, but this matters. Everybody's watching this. So, unless the two of them suddenly act like they're exactly on the same page, it's going to look like somebody won and somebody lost between Trump and Netanyahu. So I think that they'll pretend to be on the same page even if they're not, to avoid that. I guess Israel, bunch of nations, Muslim majority nations are asking Israel to withdraw. And they're thinking that if the fighting stops and Israel withdraws to some predetermined line, that all the hostages will be released. And then they can work on putting together some kind of government and, repopulating the place. Do you think that's going to happen? do you do you think that Hamas is going to release all the hostages without having a guarantee that they'll have some power or that they'll have some safety or get to keep some weapons or something? Well, I don't think so. I don't think that they're going to release any hostages until they get what they want. And Israel is very clear, as is the United States, that they're not going to get what they want. What they want is some ongoing, power and control and a seat at the table. There's no way they're going to get that. In fact, all of the Hamas leadership is going to be dead under every scenario. If they make a deal, they'll give up their weapons and Israel will eventually hunt them down and they'll all have accidents. And if they don't give up their weapons, Israel will hunt them down in their tunnels and kill them. So the Hamas leadership, they're kind of dead no matter what. So, if they can buy a few days of not being dead by making the hostage thing last longer, I feel like they will. So it's hard to imagine that an actual deal will get done, but I'm going to, as I said, I'll talk to you about Trump's persuasion play, which is really strong. Israel, speaking of Israel, there's some reports from Reuters. Danny Haifong is writing that Israel might want to, quote, mow the grass in Iran. Now, if you haven't heard that term in a military context, mowing the grass means that, new terrorists or new bad guys have popped up and they have to go back in and, just kill the new batch and then wait for another batch to pop up like grass. And then they'll have to go in and mow the grass again. So apparently whatever bombing has already happened in Iran didn't get everything that Israel needs to get. So they're thinking about going back in. What would happen to the peace negotiations with Gaza if Israel decided this week to go in and bomb Iran again? Might happen. Well, it might be looked at as trying to derail the Gaza thing, because Israel sort of has a win-win situation, maybe. One win would be the peace deal works, and that's a pretty big win. The other way to win would be the peace deal falls apart and there's no way to resolve it. And then they win the hard way. They probably lose their hostages, but they would eventually have complete control over Gaza in the short term and the long term. So it's not clear to me that Israel, or at least Netanyahu, I won't say Israel, I'll say Netanyahu, it's not clear to me he wants this to work. Is that fair? It's not clear that Netanyahu, not Israel, because Israel's got a lot of different opinions, but I'm not sure Netanyahu wants it to work. Because if it doesn't work, he's going to get everything he wants. Stay in power, get to destroy Hamas completely, get to essentially annex it. But where things are heading now is the beginning of what would be a two-state solution, and that's definitely not what Netanyahu wants. He doesn't want that second state. So we'll see. All right, let me give you a little Trump persuasion lesson. I'm going to tell you what he's doing right, and oh my God, is he doing it right? Just like you've never seen. Doesn't mean it's enough, right? So I'm going to simultaneously say that what Trump is doing is just world class, couldn't do better, but it might not be enough. But maybe you'll learn something in the process. Number one, if you want to be persuasive, credibility. Boy, you can't beat that. Credibility means that you have a track record of doing things that maybe were hard, or at least things you said you were going to do. If you've got that going for you, that just is so persuasive. I would say that that's Elon Musk's superpower, among others. He's got a few superpowers. But one of them is that if Elon Musk says, I can make a robot and it'll be a good robot, the fact that there's nothing about that that seems real to me, I still trust him. I still trust that he knows how to make a robot, even though I can't, I just have trouble imagining it'll work in the short run. But he's so credible because of the things he's done already that looked impossible. He's persuasive. Now, Trump has that situation with trying to get a peace deal because look at what he's done to become credible. The first thing he had to do is be the biggest badass, right? You're not going to get a peace deal if you're the peace guy. Does that make sense? If you're the war guy, you can get a peace deal because people really want to stay away from the war guy. Ooh, war guy. So settle down, war guy. Okay, we'll give you some peace. So look at what Trump has done from his first term as did the mother of all bombs. He took out Soleimani. He did that highly successful strike with Israel on the Iran nuclear sites. Now he's blowing up Venezuelan drug boats. And then he changes the Department of Defense to the Department of War. He makes sure it's funded. And he uses the word lethality over and over again. We're going to make it lethal, getting rid of the woke. And all of those things create a picture that says Trump doesn't bluff. That's really important. When he says, if you don't get this done, there will be hell to pay, he means there will be hell to pay. That's not just a bluff. And it's because he has credibility, because he's created this track record. On top of that, and I've never seen anybody accomplish this. This is one of the greatest accomplishments in persuasion you'll ever see. We'll see if it pays off. But here's the accomplishment. On one hand, he looks like the dictator, authoritarian strongman who's willing to do things like kill Soleimani and drop bombs on Iran. So he's that guy. At the same time, even I saw his critics on MSNBC fully admit that Trump unambiguously and honestly hates war. That's his critics. His critics have completely accepted that Trump is the most anti-war president we've ever seen. At the same time, that he's the toughest, the most badass. He's the most badass military president and also by far, the most peace-loving, will risk his life for peace, will put everything on the line for peace. Now, he claims he has 7 peace deals. Now, you could argue how many of those 7 he really made a difference. India and Pakistan might say, well, I think that was going to happen anyway. But it's very important that he creates the image that he was at least an important process in 7 different peace deals. Now, it doesn't have to be 100% true. It just has to be in your head. So you're holding in your head at the same time these two opposites. He's the badass military guy, and he will definitely whack you if you don't play along. He will definitely take you out. He'll take out your little drug boats. He'll take out your whole country if he has to. But he will fight harder for peace than anybody ever has. Now, how do you pull that off? How are you both people? Only Trump. Trump's the only person who could be both of those people at the same time and completely sell it. I completely believe he's the baddest badass. I completely believe that he wants peace more than any president ever has. That's amazing. So, and this also gets me to the next persuasion point. Deadlines. Deadlines are absolutely necessary when you have some kind of open-ended situation. And a war is, by its nature, an open-ended situation. So what Trump does is something that probably he learned doing construction. Because if you say, if your builder says, "Oh, we ran into some problems, it's going to take us longer than we thought," if you don't get him to commit to a new deadline, it'll never get done. It'll just never get done. You got to say, "All right, you're fired if you don't get this done by the end of the week." And that's sort of what Trump did with Hamas. He was a little weak on giving him a real deadline, but then he finally said, "If you don't have this worked out by Sunday, there'll be all hell to pay." Yeah, the deadline is a persuasion factor. You have to have a deadline, otherwise nothing happens. Nothing ever happens without a deadline. So he knows that. So he puts a deadline on it, and sure enough, as soon as he puts the deadline on it, stuff starts to happen. Deadlines really, really matter, especially in negotiations. The other thing he does is what you could call the biggest gap persuasion. He makes the biggest difference between making him happy and making him unhappy. So if you make him unhappy, all hell will break loose. But if you make him happy and make peace, then he will help you rebuild this jewel of the Middle East. It won't just be, "Oh, maybe we can get back to where we were." No, it'll be way better. It'll be better than anything you could even imagine. The quality of life there eventually would be like spectacular. The economy would be better. The danger would be gone. So he paints a picture where if you don't play along, there's going to be hell to pay, and he can back it up because he has credibility. But he makes sure that it's not just about avoiding the bad thing. It's you've got this good thing that's so good. It's just so good you should want it even if you weren't escaping the bad thing. But if you put them together, you've got a really bad thing that you could escape, but you're not just escaping, you're getting to this great thing, this great future. So that's another technique. You want the biggest difference between making you happy, doing what you want, and not doing what you want. Maximum. Nobody does that better. He is the number one best person at maximizing the distance between make me happy and don't make me happy. And he does it with everything. So it's not an accident. You see him do it with everything, really. And then lastly, he has a vision. So the vision gets everybody to focus on the endpoint. And I think that makes things which seemed impossible suddenly become possible because everybody's thinking about it. You have to get people to honestly imagine and visualize an endpoint of peace, and everything working out, or it'll never happen. So he makes sure that you can imagine it. He makes you think it's possible. When Hamas responded at first and said, "Oh yeah, we're okay with this peace deal as long as we have power and everything," to me it looked like there was no chance because Hamas was still asking for more than they would ever get, which is to stay in power. And but what's interesting is that Trump acted like it was close to a deal, which is brilliant. Because if Trump acts like it's really close, even if the reality is that it's not close, it makes it close. Because people's brains will sort of automatically be attracted to whatever they think about and they're visualizing. So he makes you think about and visualize, wow, we're almost there. We almost got a deal. We're right there. We're right there. We're not right there. We're not. Because the biggest thing is still in dispute. What happens to Hamas? It's the biggest thing. So, but the fact that he treats it like you're almost there brings along a lot of people. And they go, huh, he is very credible. He did get 7 deals done ish. Maybe he knows more than we do. Oh my goodness. Now I can imagine that this could happen for the first time. How hard would it be to ever imagine that there could be a sort of a really good base of peace in the Middle East? It's almost impossible to imagine, isn't it? But what did Trump do? Trump is allowing us to imagine it for the first time. I would say that I'm imagining it for the first time. I just imagined that it wasn't possible and they would just fight forever. But now, I wouldn't, maybe I wouldn't place a big bet on it, but I can totally imagine it. And you have to get people to imagine the thing before the thing can happen. Success. We can now imagine the thing. Do you know how big a deal that is? That we can imagine that this could work. Just imagine. And I'm not even talking about getting it done. That's a whole other level. But even to get it to the point where all the people involved, all of them, are now imagining it possible. That's only Trump. He's the only one who could do that. Nobody else could do that. Maybe an Elon Musk could do it if he were in that job. Trump is also treating it like it's almost a sure thing, which is even better. Instead of just saying, well, you can kind of imagine it might work, he's way beyond that. He's already treating it like, oh, yeah, we're going to get this done. And I told BB he's going to have to do this. See how that all fits together? Makes you imagine it, and then he tells you that he's going to make them do it. And because he's credible, you say, can he do that? Can he just make Netanyahu say yes? Now you can imagine it. I don't know if he can, but I can imagine it. And that's a big, big step because other people are imagining it too. If everybody's imagining it, you get there. But my favorite thing, besides the fact that he can hold out that Gaza will be rebuilt to be some jewel of the Middle East, that's visual and gets you to think about the prize. But also, this could be the beginning of a permanent expansion of the Abraham Accords. It could be a real good model of all the countries working together productively to get the Gaza thing, righted. And that would be hugely valuable for the Abraham Accords, so that all the other Arab countries and Israel figure out how to work together productively, and maybe that expands. So he's got that going too. But by far the best thing is that we all talk about the Nobel Prize if this happens. The Nobel Prize is making you think past the sale, which he's a genius at. He's making you think past the sale. Let me ask this. How many of you have thought, if he gets this done, I wonder if he'll get a Nobel Peace Prize, right? If you're thinking about whether he will get the Nobel Peace Prize or they'll try to, screw him out of it because he's just not who they want to win it, you're already thinking past you got a peace deal. Perfect. Who else does that? If you don't understand him, you just say, "Oh, that narcissist. He just wants a Nobel Peace Prize." Well, he definitely wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Who wouldn't? Everybody wants a Nobel Peace Prize. So of course he wants one. Of course he does. But he has to earn it. He's going to have to earn it. And he's going to try. So I love the fact that he makes us think about the Nobel Peace Prize. Other people would have an ego problem where they'd say, no, that's too embarrassing. I can't say out loud that I should have gotten a Nobel Peace Prize. You can't say that out loud because people just think you're some kind of a stuck-up, narcissistic jerk or something. But have I ever taught you that Trump uses his ego like a tool? It's not a flaw. It's a tool. He can turn it up and he can turn it down. And he turned it up for the Nobel Peace Prize so that we all think about it. And now we're thinking past the sale. If he didn't need it, maybe he would turn it down. But watching him work is truly is just breathtaking. There's nobody who could have created this entire, I'll call it a structure, from what you think about him to how he's framed it. It's all a structure that he's created, and his the way he's worked with his partners, even the fact that they brought Jared in. So I guess Jared is going to be part of this now. What do you think when Jared gets involved? Well, when I see Jared get involved, my brain says, "Oh my goodness, he's bringing in the A team. He's bringing in a finisher. Jared is a finisher. He's bringing in the finisher." Do you see what that does too? It makes you say, "Oh wait, we're in the finish mode," like because he brought in the finisher. So every bit of this is just freaking brilliant, honestly. If Trump gets it done, and I'm still not at a point where I'm going to predict that he can get it done because there are too many weasels over there. But if he gets this done, oh boy, does this deserve a Nobel Peace Prize? I mean, it really deserves one because what he's created already to even give us a chance is spectacular. It's spectacular. All right, Kat. Well, another good news, our liquid natural gas exports hit a record high in September. Just the News is reporting on that. So that's good. Whenever we're exporting maximum amount of energy, things are looking good. Remember that story about there was a room that was found that had all these cell phone SIM cards, and it was presumed that some foreign entity was using it to crash our cell network if they ever wanted to crash it. And then it was found that it was a Chinese entity, so that the Chinese had built a structure to crash our cell phones in an emergency. And then, to update it, now we learned that they had a second facility that has been discovered. So they had two full facilities that had no other purpose, couldn't be used for anything else, except to jam up our cell networks during an emergency. Because, why else would you do it? You would only do it if you could really mess with us. So how do we just act like that didn't happen? Is there so much spycraft going on between the U.S. and China that we just look at this and go, well, nice try. Glad we caught you. We're doing things with you, and you haven't caught us yet. So business as usual. Anyway, we'll see. But it doesn't seem like we could just have a normal relationship with them when they're doing that. I mean, they literally put major physical assets in the United States for no other reason than sabotage. How do you let that go? Now, I realize we need to buy their shit, but how do you let that go? I don't know. Well, there's a story that I almost didn't want to talk about, but there's this guy running for Virginia Attorney General. Apparently, he said some things in some emails that got out that were pretty bad. He was fantasizing about his opponent's children dying because he says if his opponent's children died, then he might change his mind about some of his policies because without pain, people don't change. And then he also said, he made a joke that if his opponent if he saw his opponent and Hitler and, I don't know, Stalin or somebody, and he only had 2 bullets, he would put both of the bullets in his opponent and let Hitler and Stalin live, which is sort of an old joke, just a form of an old joke. But his text messages got out, and now people are calling for him to drop out. Here's my problem with this. I have a rule that if it's a private conversation, that the person who released it is responsible for it. Meaning that the things that we say privately, we say them privately because we don't want them anywhere else. And we say them privately because we think the person we're talking to can handle it. and might put it in the proper context and know that you're not serious about it. You just have some hyperbole or something. But when it gets out in the wild, all the context is lost. And I usually say in these situations that the person responsible is the leaker, whoever leaked it. The leaker should get fired for revealing a private conversation. So I'm very mad at whoever leaked it. Very mad. If it were just something unpleasant, I would probably say, you know what, those are private thoughts. I'm not going to judge them for a private thought. But these are really bad private thoughts. These are not normal. These are not normal private thoughts. These are violent. And it does suggest some kind of bias toward violence against conservatives at a time when conservatives are worried about violence against them. So the timing could not be worse for saying something like that. So I'm going to, I hate to do it, but I'm going to violate my own rule and say that even though this was a private thought that happened to be expressed to one private person, this one you can't let this go. You can't let this one go. This one's too dangerous. He's got to go. If they elect this guy, big mistake. Well, apparently the conservatives over in the UK, the Conservative Party, they're pushing to do some kind of an ICE-like organization to deport a whole bunch of people they want to deport. So, but I guess there are at least two parties over there that are anti-immigration, but they want to get as many as 750,000 migrants shipped back in 5 years. And they would call that the removals force. Politico is reporting on this. So I don't know. Do you think that the UK is going full Donald Trump, and that they realize that they're going to have to do something about the migration situation, or close up the country because they're done? I feel like the existence of Trump makes it possible for the UK to adjust. Because if they see that he did, and that the US is getting on a firmer footing and recovering from over migration, if they see that we can do it, they're probably going to be able to do it. But if it doesn't work anywhere, if there's no country that gets tough and ships people back, it just doesn't happen anywhere, they probably won't do it either. So this is another one of those situations where the shadow or the vibration or the secondary effect from Trump being Trump probably helps other countries a lot. This would be one example of that. So there's a story. I think the Daily Skeptic had this story a few months ago. But the Met Office, that's in Great Britain, I guess that's where they do their climate change calculations, the Met Office. But apparently, this is so funny, that data from more than 30% of its temperature sites are just made up. So over time, a lot of the temperature measuring sites either go bad, or they go out of service, or maybe somebody builds an airport next to it, so it's no longer reliable for the temperature. But over in the UK, they've been blamed with fabricating data for more than 30% of their reporting sites. If you're making up now, of course, they would say that their estimates are responsible. So they would say something like, well, this temperature usually matched, this other temperature. So since we don't have access to this temperature, we'll just say it's continued to match this other temperature. So, I mean, if you did a few of them, a few, I'd say, well, I mean, maybe you could have left them out, but it's just a few. But if 30% of them don't exist and you're estimating them, You don't think there's any subjectivity in the estimates? Of course there is. Of course there's subjectivity. They have to decide what they're going to base the guess on. So it's not science. And, this is why I enjoy saying, wait until you find out about climate models. It's way more fun to not spend any time defending how it's going to turn out. Just say, wait till you find out. You've got a big surprise coming. Now, by the way, I do not have to be a climatologist or a psychologist or a scientist to know in advance that the temperature measurements would be bogus. All you have to do is have experience in the real world. Anybody who had real world experience, especially in big organizations, should have known that the temperature stuff was sketchy. That was the most knowable, obvious fact. And all you had to do is have experience in completely other realms. You don't have to have any experience in science or climate to know that if you have that many people and that many measuring devices over that much time and that level of complexity, somebody's making stuff up every time. Somebody's making stuff up. All right. There's a story about a professor who got put on leave for some Facebook comments about Charlie Kirk's murder. Daily Mail is reporting this, Samantha Rutt. And she referred to dangerous white men. So it's a Kansas professor. She's a black woman, in case you want to get all the context here. And her name is Nushel Chance, and she's an assistant psychology professor, or was, I guess. And when Charlie Kirk first got shot, she posted, "Methinks the word karma is appropriate. Sad day all around." Well, at least she said it was sad. And then later she said, she posted again, she said, but when we tell you all this, statistically, white American men are the most dangerous animals on the planet. We're wrong. Let's not be hasty, they say. So she was defending her opinion that white American men are the most dangerous animals on the planet. Should I be mad that she's calling me an animal? I'm going to say no, because I'm an animal. Yeah, humans are animals. Close enough. I have a mixed feeling on this because I want her to have free speech. And was that not free speech? So I really don't like it when people lose jobs over even ugly opinions. But here's why. I understand that she has to pay for that comment. But her belief about Charlie Kirk is entirely based on things that she was not responsible for, meaning that she saw things on social media, she saw people she trusted having opinions about him, and she adopted those opinions. Now, those opinions are completely wrong. He wasn't the bad guy, devil that people said. But if he had been, how bad would that comment be? Suppose he had been just a horrible monster. Would you feel bad if somebody said, "Oh, I don't mind that the horrible monster had a bad end"? It wouldn't be so bad, right? So the way you react to her is based on something that she was duped on. She was duped. She was duped into thinking he was a devil, and so she thought it would be safe to say, "Well, I guess that's what happens to the devil." But not knowing that to half the country he was closer to an angel, she just walked into the buzzsaw. So how much of that was her fault? She lived in a bubble because she thought that saying that out loud, would be consequence free, apparently. So that was, maybe that was her fault. But she's not the one who created the hoax that Charlie Kirk was a bad guy. She didn't create that. She was a victim of it. And then she just reacted in a way that somebody would if they heard that, Hitler had died, right? I don't know. So I feel like in the real world, of course, there's going to be consequences for saying that opinion out loud. But on the other hand, she's a little bit of a victim, a little bit of a victim. Not enough, for forgiveness, but she's a little bit of a victim. There's meanwhile over in Ukraine, Ukraine struck one of Russia's biggest oil refineries again, and apparently Russia did massive aerial attacks on some oil refineries, or what is it? Some of their gas production or something in Ukraine. So it looks like Russia's play is to make it really cold in Ukraine. So winter's coming. So it looks like Russia's play is to make sure the Ukrainians feel the fear and that they're going to freeze to death. And it looks like Zelensky's strategy in Ukraine is to take out the energy production in Russia until the economy is reeling, and there's long lines for gas, and maybe that gets the public against Putin. But it looks like we know the play now. And as I've been saying, it looks like they're not going to bother trying to kill humans because killing humans hasn't worked. So they're going to go after assets now. So anyway, there's a report in Interesting Engineering that over in China, they've built a mock-up of the Taiwan capital of Taipei. And the reason they built a model, it's a full-scale model, is so they can practice conquering Taiwan. So they've got a full mock-up of the city streets around, like the Capitol building and, the important buildings in the city for when they capture them. So if you're wondering, is China serious about, invading Taiwan? Yes, they built an entire model and they're practicing on it. Yeah, that sounds pretty serious to me. I think that they won't do it when Trump's president because they're patient. That's one of their great virtues. The Chinese are very patient. So wouldn't it be crazy for them to do it when Trump is president? They just have to sort of wait, get a weaker president someday. It won't be J.D. Vance. He'd be a problem too. But maybe they get a Democrat someday. So worth waiting. All right. I'll remind you that Owen Gregorian has a Spaces event that'll be firing up any minute now. Once he's got a chance to fire it up. I'm done now, but I'm going to say a few words privately to my beloved subscribers on Locals. And I hope you liked my FM voice today. All right, everybody. I will see all of you tomorrow, same time, same place, and Locals coming at you privately.